Hi, Nick. Welcome to Speech Therapy. Today we're going to be focusing on exploring some new strategies that you can implement in your speech that will help prevent you from stuttering. We'll work on reducing your rate of speech and practicing natural pauses, as well as learning how to gradually turn your voice on at the beginning of a word. So let's get started. First, we are going to work on inserting those pauses into our speech. So I'm going to have you read this passage just as you normally would. Don't worry about pausing or anything. I just want to kind of get a gauge of where your rate of speech is at.
Okay. Start.
Go ahead.
I took my mother's car instead of my own over to my mom's house one afternoon. Her next door neighbors were walking into the house as I was getting out of the car. This is a really nice car. Nothing like my beat up one. It's a Lincoln Town Car, really big and snazzy. Anyway, the guy yells, "Whoa, where'd you get the car? Moving up a little, huh?" I replied, "No, it's my husband's car," guy says. "How many husbands do you have?" "We won't tell," and laughed. I was actually kind of embarrassed and just hurried on into my mother's house. When I thought about it later, I kind of laughed. I told a friend the next day, and she burst out laughing. She thought it was hysterical. She laughed so hard, I started laughing until we both had tears. Several years ago, I would have never told this story. Now, I can lighten up a bit and see the humor in some stuttering situations.
Great job. Excellent. So now we're going to read the same passage. This time, you'll see that there are dashes where natural pausing would occur. So when you come to those dashes, I would just like that you take a 1 to 2 second pause before moving on to the next word. All right? I'm going to give it a try.
I took my partner's car instead of my own over to my mom's house one afternoon. Her next door neighbors were walking into the house as I was getting out of the car. This is a really nice car. Nothing like my beat up one. It's a Lincoln Town Car, really big and snazzy. Anyway, the guy yells, "Whoa, where'd you get the car? Moving up a little, huh?" I replied, "No, it's my husband's car." Guy says, "How many husbands do you have?" "We won't tell," and laughed. I was actually kind of embarrassed and just hurried on into my mother's house. But when I thought about it later, I kind of laughed. I told a friend the next day, and she burst out laughing. She thought it was hysterical. She laughed so hard, I started laughing, until we both had tears. Several years ago, I would never have told the story. Now, I can lighten up a bit and see the humor in some stuttering situations.
Great job. Did you notice how that slowed your rate of speech a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's move on to the next passage. We're going to just do the same thing. I want you to read it as you normally would without the pauses. And then we'll try again with those built-in pauses.
During the Buffalo Conference, a busload of us went up to Canada. When we got to the border upon our return to the U.S., an immigration officer came on board the bus. In a less than friendly and far too authoritarian tone, he told us that all he needed to know from us was our country of citizenship. He then proceeded down the aisle, stopping at each row of seats and pointing to each person. "Citizenship," he said as he pointed at each person. "Talk about performance anxiety. The first couple of U.S. seemed to go over his head, but after a few more he started getting suspicious, curious, and concerned. Finally someone explained to him who we were and he relaxed. But it was one of the funniest studying experiences of my life."
Great. All right, now let's read it with those pauses. Remember, 1 to 2 second pause at every dash.
Okay. During the Buffalo Conference, a busload of us went up to Canada. When we got to the border upon our return to the U.S., an immigration officer came on board the bus. In a less than friendly and far too authoritarian tone, he told us that all he needed to know from each of us was our country of citizenship. He then proceeded down the aisle, stopping at each row of seats and pointing to each person. "Citizenship," he said, as he pointed at each person. "Talk about performance anxiety. The first couple of UUSs seemed to go over his head, but after a few more, he started getting suspicious, curious, and concerned. Finally, someone explained to him who we were, and he relaxed. But it was one of the funniest studying experiences of my life.
Great. How did that feel compared to reading it without the pauses built in?
I noticed I stuttered more in the first one than the second.
Yeah, excellent. All right, well, we are just going to do one more passage to practice those pauses. Maybe if I could find it. All right. This is the one without the pauses. See if you can try and put those pauses in where you think they belong.
Okay. But read it as if.
Yeah, read it normally.
My brother and I both stutter. Years ago, when he got his first computer, his wife and he were trying to delete some data. This was when you had to use DOS and actually know how to type the right command. He was reading the instructions from the book, and his wife was punching the keys per his instructions. All of a sudden, he realized that with the command he told her to type, and they were about to format the hard drive. That's not what they wanted to do, but by the time he yelled, "Stop," he's already punched the last keystroke. She asked him, "Why didn't you stop me?" And he said, "I tried." They took the computer to a repair center.
Great job. I think you did much better slowing your rate of speech that time.
I think so too.
So if you want to just do it again, but following those pauses that are built in.
Okay. My brother and I both stutter. Years ago, when he got his first computer, his wife and he were trying to delete some data. This was when you had to use DOS and actually know how to type the right command. He was reading the instructions from the book, and his wife was punching the keys per his instructions. All of a sudden, he realized that with the command he told her to type, they were about to format the hard drive. That's not what they wanted to do, but by the time he yelled, "Stop," she already punched the last keystroke. She asked him, "Why didn't you stop me?" And he said, "I tried." They took the computer to a repair center.
Good job. Your stuttering was almost non-existent that time. Excellent. Do you feel like pausing like that and giving yourself a moment to think about what you're going to say alleviates?
Helps?
Good.
I think so, yeah.
Sure. All right. So our next activity, we're actually just going to focus on a strategy called easy onset. It's when you basically turn on your voice slowly before you actually get the entire word out. Let's see, what should I have? So this technique encourages an easy or gentle onset of voicing that will help alleviate the abrupt initiation of speech that is typical in a stuttered word. This speech slide that I have here is kind of a guide to easy onset. So you're going to want to inhale nice and deep, take your time, and then exhale almost completely. At the end of your exhale is when you will start the word. It'll almost sound like it has an H beginning just because you're starting with...
Do you want me to read a passage while doing that, or?
No, we're just going to do specific words from those passages that we just read, ones
Okay.
that you may have stuttered on. So I'll keep this here just in case we lose sight of that, the easy onset technique.
Okay.
So for example, I'll show you how it's done with the word apple. So I'm going to inhale. Apple. So you can see at the end of my exhale is when I started, I turned on my voice for
Okay.
the word apple. Do you want to give it a try with apple?
Sure. Apple.
All right, try it one more time.
Oh, that's fancy. Do you want me to pronounce the H?
A little bit. We don't want to do that in our normal speech, but just to get this technique of easily turning on our voice down, that may be the effect it has on your words.
Okay.
So let me just quickly write down some of the words that we struggled with in the passages. So, nice, well, moving, husband, on, never, stuttering,
So do you want me to pronounce an H in front of the words?
I don't want you to pronounce the H, but if you listen when I say apple at the end, because you're exhaling, so your air is leaving your body just as it would when you say. So that exhale gives the effect of you pronouncing an H.
Okay.
But I don't want that to be your focus. I don't want you to consciously think of putting an H in there.
So just say the word while exhaling.
Yes. Do you want to try with banana? We're on fruit.
Banana.
It's harder with some of those stop words. Just want to get some words that are actually relevant to your stutter rather than fruit. All right. Let's do the first 5 words.
Okay.
I will model, and you will basically imitate how I say it.
Okay.
My. It's really hard with those stop words. All right, give it a try.
My.
Excellent. Now we'll go to mom. Mom.
Mom.
All right. Nice.
Nice.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Moving.
Moving.
Good. Do you see how that kind of gets us going on the word? You kind of get a running start into the entire word. Excellent. So let's try with
Husband.
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 Excellent. Yeah, those H words make it really easy.
Easier.
Yeah, sounds normal.
Un.
Good.
Never.
Try never again.
Never.
Okay. Go ahead.
Stuttering.
Good.
They.
All right.
Stop.
Good.
Took.
Try that one again.
That one's hard.
That is. Let me give it a try. Took. So do kind of like a really weak t, because your t was very
Okay.
articulate and strong. Good. That was really good. Now on to the next.
Getting.
Okay.
Good.
Try that one more time.
Getting. I can't do that.
Let me try. Getting. Trying to slow things down. Make it really easy and relaxed on your articulation.
Getting.
Good. That was better. Next one is next.
Next.
Good.
On.
Great.
This one's tough. Border.
Yeah, that was plosive.
Border.
Good. That was really good. Better than I probably would have done it.
Pointing.
Good.
Performance.
Good.
Good.
Two more.
But.
Try that again.
But. Last one.
Yep.
Finally.
Good. I thought that F might be a little bit of a challenge. All right. We just have one more word list, and then that'll probably be the end of our session. Just gonna do these ones here.
Okay.
Right.
First one, books.
Mm-hmm.
Books.
Try that again. A little bit less on the B.
Books.
Okay. Two.
Research.
Good. That one was really good.
The B's are hard.
Mm-hmm. It's because a B is a very plosive sound. But you don't use a lot of exhale in that.
Library.
Great.
Law.
Okay.
Attorney.
Okay.
Debate.
Try that again. It's going to be hard like the B's are.
Debate. I can't do that one.
Try again. Wait, let me
You
give it a
try.
shot. Let me give it a shot. Debate. Yeah, the D makes it pretty difficult to
Followed
go
by a
into
B
it
right
slow.
after that.
Mm-hmm. You're right. All right, well, we'll work on that one.
Objection.
Good.
Judge. Fun stuff too.
Yeah.
Witness.
Try that one again.
Witness.
Good job. All right. Well, that concludes our session. Which strategy at this point would you say?
Help the most.
Yeah,
I think the first one.
the first one,
Putting in the pauses.
slowing that rate of speech.
It's just hard to. You don't consciously think when you're talking. I guess always. I mean.
Yeah.
I feel like to consciously think to put in pauses when you're talking might be a little.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Difficult.
gonna be tough to remember that.
Yeah, it's going to take some practice, but we'll keep at it, and soon your rate of speech will be a little bit slower. It'll make it a little bit more manageable to avoid those stuttering moments. All right, well, thank you very much, Nick.
Thank you, Nicole.
See you next time.